Today I'd like to talk about an issue that's pretty serious in this day and age, which is the aspect of authenticity, or of things being authentic. And by authentic, it often refers to things that are original or created by a person in reality. And certainly these videos that I make are authentic. It's just me and a camera and very little else. But in creating videos, there's also an aspect of authenticity about how we depict reality. It can be with filters, or it can be with covers for the microphone to limit the wind noise, or zooming in and so forth. It can also be a choice of how we're framing it. Right now I'm walking around a field in my neighborhood. I could be walking amongst all the houses, and that would be a different sort of depiction of reality. I've chosen not to do that, and therefore that's a slightly different version of reality. Is it inauthentic? To a certain extent, maybe. I like to think that it's just my choosing a scene that will be pleasing over my shoulders. But this aspect of inauthenticity, or authenticity of depicting the world in the real way, is something that affects us all, in the digital world particularly, but also even in reality. I've mentioned it a few times in some of the videos and some of the places I visited, and I've got a couple of places on my itinerary coming up which will also bring up the idea of how authentic they are. When archaeologists find prehistoric sites, they're often in a state of disrepair, and archaeologists often will rebuild, reconstruct, re-erect menhirs, etc., as well as to clean up the land, excavate the area around a site. And this produces an image of the site that was different than it had been before the archaeologists got there. Does that make it inauthentic? Maybe. There's also the aspect of authenticity that what we see when they've built it or when we visit a site is not necessarily the authenticness of what it was like when people built it. The dolmens we see, the standing stones in the middle of a field, would have been covered with a mound. The terrain might have been different. The foliage definitely would have been different. Here, this is a field, it's being farmed. Would this have been covered in with trees in the past? Possibly. So whenever we visit a prehistoric site, whenever I visit them on these videos, I will try to mention and point out how it may have changed since the past and how archaeologists may have improved the site. And it's worth us knowing that and understanding that the prehistoric sites that we see in these videos or when we visit are authentic for right now, but there may have been some rebuilding, reconstruction, generally with the best intentions in mind and with the idea of making it as close to what it would have been like when it was originally built. But sometimes that doesn't come out the way we would have liked, and there's certainly one site I'm coming up to which will talk about the questionable choices that were made in the reconstruction of the site and what that means to be an authentic prehistoric site. But the issue of authenticity today is more in the digital realm, especially with the rise of artificial intelligence. And I've made at least one video talking about artificial intelligence, what it means for prehistory and the study of prehistory, and some of the problems that we face with it. Some people embrace artificial intelligence. I've seen a number of videos where people will use artificial intelligence to create images or videos to reimagine or to imagine what life would have been like in the prehistoric period. And there's some real appeal to that, and I've tried to do that, and I've shared some of my results here. But there's also pitfalls involved with that. And two of them, one is simply the fact that by producing an image or a video of something that purports to be a depiction of what life was like in prehistoric times, we run the risk of people thinking that that's actually what it was like. When we see things, there's a saying, seeing is believing. When we see videos like this, we tend to think, wow, that's what it was like. But that's not what it was like. That's a depiction of what it might have been like. And if we follow those videos and follow those images and internalize them as a depiction of what it was like, we might be getting a distorted view of reality. This is particularly true with artificial intelligence, because artificial intelligence, as it exists right now and as it's being used, is based on a model, a large language model, trained on data that people have fed it. And the more data it's fed, the more accurate its information, its depictions, etc. can be. But we don't have a lot of data about prehistoric times. There's certainly no images. The research papers that are in existence, some may have been fed into the training data, but lots will not have been. So artificial intelligence, when it tries to depict or talk about prehistoric times, is largely guesswork. And there's certainly the problem of hallucination, where it might make things up. A perfect example. I saw recently a post with somebody visiting megaliths in Portugal and used AI video to try to show what the landscape might have been like with multiple prehistoric dolmens in an area and people living and working, etc. But all the videos that the AI created showed the dolmens, the antas, as stones jutting up out of the field, which is completely incorrect, because that's what they're like now, after thousands of years have passed, and their covering of a mound or a momoa, a tumulus, has been worn away by the passing of time and erosion. Now we see these stones standing up in a field, but when they were built, when people were using them, they were covered in a mound, and there would have been an entranceway in one location, and all of the dolmen would have been inside the earth, covered by stones and dirt. And those videos just didn't show that. So we have to be careful when we use artificial intelligence. And that comes to the aspect of authenticity, of how much do we use tools like this to create things, because they're tempting and they're there and they can be very helpful. And as I said, I've used them myself. So I think when we use them, when I use artificial intelligence tools, I will always label my work as being influenced, or whatever comes out, as artificial intelligence. I haven't labeled everything up till now, but I'm going to be better at that now, because I've started using AI to help with some of the scripts for some of my shorter and more entertaining pieces. And I'll make sure that I say when I have used AI to draft a script. But in the interest of authenticity, I might use AI to draft a script, these long form ones, and you can see this one, I'm not editing it at all. This is just me. But when I do a script for a serious site study, I won't be using AI tools. And when I do use AI tools for simpler scripts, for more fun visits, I will always mention that I've used that, and I always read through the script, change it, remove things that don't make sense to me or don't seem right or are too fantastical or hallucinations, and I'll make sure that whatever's in my videos is authentically mine. And I hope you appreciate that as you watch these videos. If you've been watching it up till now, you're one of the small percentage of few people who stick around, which is great. Thank you. And As you consume information on the internet, videos here on YouTube or on other sites, please be aware of the issue of authenticity. And if you see people using AI tools without saying where they're from, call them on that. Ask them, is this AI generated? Please ask them to cite their sources, say where they get these things from, or that they've used AI. It's about authenticity. It's about the human touch. In the digital world and in today's day and age, the human touch can be hard to get. Connecting with my viewers, you connecting with me, is a little bit more challenging. I welcome comments. I will always try to respond to them quickly in English or in Portuguese. And if you contact me directly through other channels, again, I will respond to you. That communication is important. So connect with people online digitally. Check to make sure that things are going authentically. And when you do see AI tools, or when you see my videos, which have used AI in the script, think about how the human being behind these videos or behind the product has adapted, corrected, checked, made sure that it works. I promise I will always do that. I know how error-prone AI tools can be, and I will always make sure that whatever I present to you, although it might be a little bit more poetic with AI drafting, I'll make sure it's always as accurate a depiction of reality, as authentic a construction and a creation as can possibly be made. Thanks for watching.